Welcome everybody to this week's episode of Ant on Music. I, of course, am your host, Ant, and this week we've got a mixed bag full of stuff. Got some hair metal, some real growly type stuff. Got some prog as well. So we got a box set. Of course, we got a box set. There's always a box set, isn't there? Just about all the time there's a box set, right? So if you saw the intro, you know what we're looking at. But before we hop into it, just want to remind everybody, please, leave some comments. Also, you may want to give a thumbs up. I do appreciate that. That does help me in the algorithm section there. Gets me out to more viewers, which is something every creator wants, is more people to view their stuff. So, subscribe, click like, drop a comment, all that good stuff. Please have at it. So without further ado, take a big sip of water and we'll get into it. So we started talking about rabbit holes last week, as I'm always going down rabbit holes. And there was a couple. So one of the things, I got the new Gazpacho album last week, right? And I started looking around. Is there anything I've missed from them? Because I have a fair amount of their stuff on CD, album or two here or there on vinyl. And what I found was I missed a live album, okay? And it was one of those pandemic live albums, which were always kind of cool because during lockdown, there were a group of artists, a large amount of artists, that had just produced albums, and all of a sudden the world went to sleep and they weren't able to tour. And several bands found a way to get around that, which was have recorded albums, live albums, and having online concerts and things like that. Like one of my favorites, Marillion, did a quote-unquote couch convention. Another one was Gazpacho. All right, and Gazpacho produced this album, okay, Fireworking at St. Croix. And this is the Fireworker album in a live setting. And so, track listing is pretty straightforward, as you can see there. Space Cowboy, Hourglass, Fireworker, Antique, Sapien, Substitute for Murder, The Walk, and Winter is Never. And it's a nice gatefold album as well. The vinyl itself, basic black vinyl, nothing wrong with that. It is a 2 LP set. Okay, songs are have a tendency to be long with prog, and everything is basic black. So that one I found going down the rabbit hole, looking at stuff, because with all the stuff coming out between Black Friday, Record Store Day, Black Friday next week, and box sets in the middle of, as I call it, box set season, there's still other stuff that I didn't get around to getting. Another one. So I went out and went to my local mall. And I went to my local mall. I wandered into Newbury Comics. All right, Newbury Comics is they're listed as an independent record store. I don't know how independent they are. They've got several locations. It's not exactly like they're a Tower Records or one of the other big box stores like Best Buy, but they're fairly spread out. I think they've got several stores, 5 at least, in the New England area, which is where I live. They have some degree of variety, I guess you could say, as far as what they keep in the mix at Newbury. And one of the things that I found was this one. It's the first time on vinyl since 1999. So, 26 years is a long time. And if you thought last week's cover with the Black Crowes was questionable, you're really going to dig this one. Who else would throw their wife out there like this but Rob Zombie? Okay, and of course there is his lovely missus on the cover, and this is obviously Sherry Moon Zombie there, and wearing nothing but high heels and a hat, and I'm sure Rob appreciates that. And this is American Made Music to Strip By, and you can see you got the track listing there. And this is another gatefold album. I have the CD of this. I've had it since its release. You get a live picture of the band, but it is not a live album. It is remixes. Also, as far as the album is concerned, once again, everything's basic black. So nothing to see there. The labels are pretty straightforward, on all four sides. Nothing spectacular to see there. This is the band that basically did Hellbilly Deluxe with Zombie, Riggs, Blasco, and Tempesta on drums. And I've heard that Riggs is back in the fold as well as Blasco. So when the new album comes out early next year, I'm sure I'll be showing that to you. And it'll be the quote-unquote classic Rob Zombie band back together. And you've got various remixes here. You get Dragula, Super Beast, How to Make a Monster, Living Dead Girl, which is a fantastic tune, Spook Show Baby, Demonoid Phenomenon, Ballad of Resurrection Joe, What Lurks on Channel X, Meet the Creeper, Return of the Phantom Stranger, Super Beast again, and Meet the Creeper again. So you get different remixes on stuff. Scott Humphrey is one of the people that does one of the remixes, remixed by God Lives Underwater, so various remix artists taking a stab at Rob Zombie's music there. So pretty cool. Glad to have this one on vinyl as well and add that to the collection. And like I said, rabbit holes, right? They'll be the death of me yet, I swear. So went whole hog on into Howling Giant. I really dig them. Trying to get everything. And of all places to find this Howling Giant album, they're on Blues Funeral Records, right? Very small independent label. I found The Space Between Worlds, okay? And of all places, Target. Believe me, I'm as shocked as you are. And this is a gatefold. All right, very cool looking images there. And as far as the vinyl goes, get the Blues Funeral label as well as the front album cover. And this one is on colored vinyl, all right? This very cool blue vinyl right here. And this has the songs Comet Rider, Nomad, Ghosts in the Well, The River Guide, Ice Castle, which I really dig. On first listen, I really took to that one. Side B, Cyberman and the Doomsday Express, Everlight, The Orb, and Stone Giant closes out the album. I'm really digging them. They have great vocals. This is when they were a trio, before they added their newest member, became a quartet. If you like, music that's more complex, this is definitely a band to check out. And this was one of those things, I got a suggestion for it on Facebook, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. And the funny thing was, the suggestion actually wasn't for Howling Giant. They happened to be the opening act on a tour, and they're opening for Ancients, which is another band that I never really gave a shot to. But, once again, gave them a shot, and I picked up their latest album. They're a Canadian band, and as I said, they're the headliner between them and Howling Giant, and this is the third pressing, and this is on double black vinyl. It's called Beyond the Reach of the Sun. Came in its own holder here, record sleeve here, so it's nice and heavy duty, so I'll leave it as is. A lot of times you get them from the artist and they're flimsy, but this one's good. And if you like stuff like Opeth, all right, definitely worth checking out. Ancients, it's the word ancients with an S but with two I's, so ANCIIENTS. And here's the back cover of that. Got some really cool artwork there. You get your lyrics and liner notes in there, right? Get your lyrics there and your liner notes, so you have all that information there. You also get this neat little insert as well. Get your band members there, liner notes back there. This is them in the studio, if you can make out the picture. And the expanded artwork shown whole and entire on one sheet as opposed to bending the vinyl backwards to see it. They've also nice enough their record label, which is Season of Mist, to include one of their order sheets for other stuff, including clothing and albums. And It's basic black, so nothing to see there. Plain labels, very cool. And this one I took to pretty much right off the bat. I like the song that kicks it off, Forbidden Sanctuary. You also get Despoiled, Is It Your God, Melt the Crown, which is very good. Cloak of the Vast and Black, Celestial Tyrant I dig, Beyond Our Minds I dig, The Torch, Candescence, and In the Absence of Wisdom, which closes out the album. And it is a really, really fantastic closer. So if you dig Opeth type stuff, a little bit of growly, which sometimes doesn't sit well with me, but I'll be honest with you, this album is so good that I really, could look past the growling parts. It's like, the guttural singing really doesn't do it for me. Never really has. Even though I love bands like Opeth, I always prefer, if you can sing, sing. There's no reason for you to sound like the Cookie Monster, but on some tracks, the vocalist does, so it is what it is, but instrumentally, phenomenal record. All right, so Ancients, Beyond the Reach of the Sun, this is their latest, came out last year. I know I'm late to the party, whatever. So next up, finally, here we go. This is what we came here for, right? 80s hair metal's finest, one of the biggest acts of the 80s, Motley Crüe, and this is their deluxe vinyl box set 40th anniversary edition of Theater of Pain. Now, I will preface this by saying I was a huge Crue fan growing up, big Crue fan in high school, and this was the first time I got to see them on tour, so naturally I have some very fond memories of that tour and of seeing them live for the first time at Madison Square Garden, which was just phenomenal. Great show. And they had the openers Loudness, Japanese band Loudness, which originally I think a couple of members were in EZO, and then EZO split off, and you had Akira Takasaki on guitar. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And he's a phenomenal guitarist, that dude. That guy can shred. He's probably the top musician in both bands combined on that bill. And that's easy to say. But the Motley Crue box set, all right? Let's talk about this one. We'll take a look at it and we'll talk about it. So what do you get in this bad boy? Well, aside from this big, beautiful box with the reimagined artwork of the comedy and tragedy there with the pentagram up on the tragedy end of things, you get the original album, all right? So you get that with the reimagined artwork. Sleeve with the original photo in there of them looking at their most feminine, I guess you could say. And on the back, you get your lyrics and liner notes. And this is a colored piece of vinyl. And on one side, you got tragedy, very cool looking. And on the other side, comedy. And with this, this album gets panned pretty badly. It's very pop metal, but like I said, I have fond memories of it. And I mean, yeah, it's not feel good. It's not girls. It is probably one of the weaker sisters in their earlier catalog, but I dig some of the songs on here. City Boy Blues, then you get the great cover of Brownsville Station, Smoking in the Boys Room, which was the first single and pretty big. Louder Than Hell is decent. Keep Your Eye on the Money, basic rock and roll. The big ballad, Home Sweet Home. Tonight We Need a Lover. Use It or Lose It, which kind of chugs along a la Red Hot. Save Our Souls. Raise Your Hands to Rock, which is pretty straightforward. You got some acoustic guitars in there. And Fight for Your Rights. A lot of people have said it's kind of a half-baked album. It is what it is. All right. The other stuff you get in here. All right. We'll hold off on the other two albums because we'll talk about those because now this is where the bashing comes in. You got this Theater of Pain hardcover book. And it's pretty, it's fairly thick. And you would expect, some write-up on where they were at as a band because Nicky was having problems with heroin. And, you had all sorts of craziness going on with Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear. What are you getting here? Pictures. Just a butt ton of pictures. There is nothing in here about anything. You'll also get this as well, concert tickets. I'm going to try and dig out my concert ticket and add it to the intro to this. So, you see that. Because I was at one of the more infamous shows on this tour at Madison Square Garden, as I said, August 14th, 1985, at the Garden. So you got Vince and Mick. You know, not a ton of stuff to really talk about as far as the book goes. It's a big picture book, so it is what it is. So what else do we got in here? All right. Next up, the thing that always draws me into these things, the live album. And I know, Motley Crüe live. It's questionable stuff, right? Yeah, this was an album, and if you read the hype sticker here, right, the hype sticker says, original 85 album, remastered on colored vinyl with reimagined cover art, the never-before-released, professionally recorded live album from the 1985 tour on 2LP color vinyl. I guess the best part about it is it's colored vinyl. The set list, fantastic. Can't complain about the set list. So what can I complain about? The recording. I think they put on there that it was professionally recorded because when you listen to this, you will doubt that this was professionally recorded. It is a crap, muddy mix. And I would say it's a questionable choice that what comes through the clearest are Vince's vocals, which, for a change, he remembers almost all the words. And Nicky's bass, which, if you know anything, Nicky has been accused of basically not playing bass anymore, basically playing a tape. So the mix on this is god-awful. I've heard bootlegs that are much better than this, and like I said, the quality on the live album is pretty god-awful. But what did you get as far as the live album's concerned? I mean, I'm sure if you have a high-end system, you could try and EQ it to hell. But Mick Mars gets lost in the mix, and Tommy Lee's there. But it seems like him and more than anybody, Mick's an afterthought. And this was live at Long Beach Arena, which was known from the same era of the for Iron Maiden's Live After Death album, which sounds phenomenal, excellent sound. The album. This sounds like a pile of crap. You get Looks That Kill to kick it off. Great tune. Use It or Lose It. Shout at the Devil. Fight for Your Rights. 10 Seconds to Love. Piece of Your Action. Home Sweet Home. You get Red Heart and the guitar solo, which I don't even remember hearing the guitar solo when I listened to this. And I listened to it yesterday. Keep Your Eye on the Money. Louder Than Hell in the drum solo. Too Young to Fall in Love. Knock 'Em Dead Kid. Live Wire. Smoking in the Boys Room. City Boy Blues. Helter Skelter and Jailhouse Rock. So side D or side 4 is basically, City Boy Blues and 3 covers. So between Elvis, the Beatles, and Brownsville Station. All right, so you get the crummy sounding live album. Now, also you get this. And this is usually another thing that I get pretty psyched about, which is I love to see how the sausage is made. I love demos. I love listening to all that stuff, how they come up with the ideas, where it went, how it was produced, yada, yada, yada. But I will say this. I looked at this and I go, all right, we got Home Sweet Home's demo, Smoking in the Boys Room, the alternate guitar solo rough mix, City Boy Blues demo, Home Sweet Home instrumental rough mix, Keep Your Eye on the Money demo, Tommy's drum piece from Cherokee Studios, and Hotter Than Hell demo for Louder Than Hell. And I said to myself, you know something? This sounds vaguely familiar. Get a cool looking vinyl. All right. And I said, boy, this sounds vaguely familiar. And me being one of those guys that has a lot of music, I said, why does it sound so damn familiar? So I went through my collection. And I remembered, and I talked about this on an older video called Mötley Crüe. All right, I think it's called Lucky 13 Mötley Crüe, my Mötley Crüe collection, right? So you can go back and check out that video. But look what we have here. All right, this is part of a 3 box set package that they only released 2 of the 3 box sets on. And I said, let me pull this sucker out and see what's what. All right. And I pulled out the track list because I keep everything that I can keep. And I started looking. And guess what? Yep. On disc 3, tracks 12 through 16 are the same exact. So if you look down here, the same exact track listing as the demos here. All right. So what did we end up with this box set? We ended up with demos that have already been released elsewhere, but they didn't, indicate that it was the first time on vinyl. Okay. It just said it's on color vinyl. It didn't say it was, previously released material. Kind of false advertising there. Pisses me off. And you ended up with a live album that sounds like it was mixed with coffee cans underwater. And the remixed Theater of Pain, which was already part of the other Mötley Crüe box set of their initial run of albums. So, overall, is it worth it? Probably not. If you have the box set and you have, the original album or the remastered box set, Crucial Crue, you're all set. Not unless you want the Muddy Live album. I got it. You live and learn. It is what it is. And you guys know, if you've been following my channel for a long time, I really don't bash much of anything. So it's got to be pretty disappointing for me to speak up and say something negative. But, that's it. That's all we have for this week. I thank you for tuning into the channel. I thank you for checking out the video. Wander around in here a little bit. See what else you like to check out. Drop a comment. Going to be coming up with some new stuff. We've got another big 50th anniversary thing coming up. As soon as it hits my doorstep, I'll be bringing it to you. Also, going to do a catch-up on one of my favorite bands, Marillion. I know a lot of people don't really know much about them. They're an English band, but they've been around forever, and I absolutely adore them. And box set season rolls on. And, of course, next week we have Record Store Day, Black Friday, which for me is one of the 2 biggest holidays of the year. It is Christmas for record collectors in a way. So that's everything I've got for you. Once again, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, peace, one love, music. I'm out.